Good morning, Sean. Good morning, Colton. Hey, Dennis. Hi, everybody. Let me give you guys the abilities to unmute yourselves.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, wow. We got a bunch of people today. All right. It's going to take me a minute to click through everybody.
I'm driving, so make sure you keep me muted, Michael.
I will do just that.
Thank you.
Good morning, Michael. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, Sean. Good morning. Yes, sir. You can take if you're ready to rock and roll. I don't want to hold you up and slow you down. I just have this slide so that, people know they're in the right place. That's all.
Gotcha. So I will, if you can enable the multiple screen sharing, excuse me, then I will get mine up and we'll go from there.
Fire away.
All right, Michael, can you confirm, Colton, can you confirm that you see this? We're looking at 8 reasons why everyone needs a whole life policy or an IUL, and I'll explain that why you hear those interchangeably. So can everybody see that?
Yes, we see the gray bar at the bottom, and then the top right, there's a gray bar as well. So that's like you're looking at the zoom bar. If actually you hit the little 3 dots on the right of the bottom
Yes.
bar, there's one that says hide or hide control bar or something. I forget what it says.
You're the man because I didn't know that, and it came up with the recording. I think last time we did it, or another one that I was doing. So I appreciate that, Michael. You just made
All
me
good.
wiser, man.
Learn something new every day. The only
Yes,
gray box
indeed.
we see now is on the top right, which I don't think you can get rid of that, but it's very small.
Yeah, I'll
So
put
if
it up there.
yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. This is so if we look at the Life and Annuity Resource Center that Global has put into place in partnership with Brokers International. The L for life and renew, or the L for LARC is life, A is for annuity, and then RC is obviously resource center. And so we're going to show you how to continue to use that and to use your license, right? We talked about this, use your insurance license to offer complete protection to your clients, which is beneficial for your clients. And that's got to be the number one reason we go out there and do this job. The number 2 reason is you. It's to feed your family. It's to pay for your house, pay for your car, put food on the table. And those 2 reasons are why we want to utilize everything. I've given you a million football analogies, car sales analogies. You wouldn't go, run a football team's offense. You wouldn't be the coordinator and say, well, we're only going to do run plays. You're going to do run and pass, okay, and a few trick plays too. And that's the concept with your life insurance license, with your insurance license in general. We want to show you how to use all of them and then leverage the LARC, the Life Community Resource Center, to essentially double your income over the next 12 months and really maximize, optimize your returns and provide the best client support that you possibly can. So today is the first foray into the life insurance world. So I'm going to give you 8 reasons why everyone needs whole life insurance. And this is needed right now, okay? This is something that we need. You've seen this before, so I really won't spend any more time on this. I am a managing partner. I sold 3 companies to Integrity Marketing Group. I'm the author of 7 Benefits of FIAs for Retirement. I serve as the Chief Sales Officer currently for Brokers International. So I work with Colton, who is on the call, and with Wanda, who is traveling today. I am also a securities licensed agent. I bring that up continuously because I want you to know that if I have confidence in this product, if I have a fiduciary responsibility, if I have 6 designations and I have passed state tests and underseen the scrutiny of the Securities and Exchange Commission, and I'm telling you, these are the values. This is what these are the reasons and the benefits that you can extract from a life insurance policy for your clients. Then have confidence with it, because 1, it's by law I have to do it. 2, I don't want to go to hell and tell you the wrong thing. And 3, notice I'm not going to show you a TikTok video where I explain that IULs are the greatest thing since sliced bread. I'm not going to explain that putting money into the stock market is gambling. It's not true. I'm not going to explain anything with hyperbole or embellishment because it is not necessary. I'm going to give you 8 stalwart, factual reasons why everyone needs to have a whole life policy or an IUL, and we're going to go through that. Before I do, it is an important notice. I read this every time for legal reasons, but I want you to get in the habit of doing this also if you're presenting something to clients. So myself, Sean Ruggiero, Global Premier Benefits, Integrity Marketing Group, all of its affiliates, we do not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. This material has been provided and prepared for informational purposes only and is not intended to provide and should not be relied on for tax, legal, or accounting advice. You should always consult your own tax, legal, and accounting advisors for engaging in any tracks and before engaging in any transactions. All right, first and foremost, okay? And I want you to understand this. And this presentation, I'm going to go through it as rapidly as I possibly can, but it's going to take probably a full 52 minutes, and we'll save 8 minutes for questions. That's my estimate here. But please listen. Please pay attention if you care. If you care to finish this 55 minutes and have a much higher level of confidence and competency and motivation in selling life insurance. Okay. And this is very important to understand. See, we see on TikTok, we see this new generation, and there's a reason why. You know, Michael, what's easier to get, a securities license or a life insurance license? I mean, if you don't know, take a guess. Which do you think is easier to get?
Well, it's definitely the life insurance license.
It's absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. It's easier to go out and take a little click through video and be quote unquote licensed to operate a jet ski, although that is scary because my kids are going 50 miles an hour out in the lake the other day, than it is to go get a driver's license. And it's a lot easier to get a driver's license than it is to fly a jet. Now that seems extreme, but there's reasons for that. Because when you're dealing with insurance, you can't cause people to lose money. You can lie, you can screw them over, you can be a bad person. That's just being a bad person. But there's a difference. So the bar to get a life insurance license, and again, there's no shame in this, is lower than the bar to go get a securities license. Because when you deal with securities, you can actually take people's money, lose people's money. You could have a custodial oversight of their account and actually make trades for them and choose what to do with their money. That's very restrictive. All right. So please don't start comparing any sort of life insurance to a securities investment. They're different. And guess what? There is advantages that life insurance has, specifically whole life or an IUL, index universal life, that investments don't have. So an IUL, and I'll use these interchangeably because an IUL is simply a form of whole life insurance. An IUL is a financial asset. It's not an investment. So it makes it better in certain ways. All right. What do I mean by that? Well, life insurance can have guarantees. It can have guaranteed death benefits. It can have guaranteed premium payments. It can have guaranteed cash values. Investments don't. Do you know if you buy common stock and it's been a scary week so far? Well, what's happening in the Nikkei and what's happening in the U.S. stock market and globally, I do think we'll rebound. I think it's a bit fear-based. But that being said, if you lose all value in common stock, you don't get paid anything. There's nothing there for you, right? There's some guarantees in life insurance. Whole life insurance also passes tax-free to your loved one. So does term. Any life insurance passes tax-free. That is a huge benefit. Other than municipal bonds, and by the way, municipal bonds are exempt from federal tax, but not state tax unless they are issued in the state that you have. And municipal bonds do count once you're taking Social Security and you have something called a provisional tax calculation. It's in my book if you're ever curious about it, or if you have questions, you can ask me, but don't worry about that too much. We're getting into some retirement planning, but there's no free lunch. Except life insurance, it passes tax-free. It's one of the very few, if not the only thing that will pass tax-free. And it can provide cash tax-free. Now, notice this, Michael, I'm not saying that we're going to go out and meet a bunch of 65-year-olds. Tell them that they should just put in $5,000 a year or exchange their 401k into an IUL, and all of a sudden in 5 years, they're going to retire tax-free. That's foolhardy. There is math and physics that we have to defy, and those two things are impossible to defy. But it doesn't take away from the fact that passing something on to your loved ones, be it your spouse, be it your children, or whomever, tax-free is a huge benefit. And access to cash tax-free, as you're going to see as I go through these 8 benefits, is a huge benefit. So whole life insurance, IULs, should be considered an alternative for conservative financial assets, such as CDs or bonds. Makes sense? Great. And then whole life insurance also can provide benefits that help you offset healthcare and long-term care costs. I'm going to repeat that. Whole life insurance, including IULs, can have benefits such as living benefits, living because you can access them while you're alive, that it can help offset healthcare and long-term care costs. We're going to talk about why that's so important. But I want you to understand, life insurance is not long-term care insurance. It's something totally different, but it can help offset. It can help work when you don't have long-term care insurance. And we're going to talk about that as one of the benefits here. I want to also touch base with you on how we build a financial pyramid, a proper financial pyramid. This isn't a pyramid scheme. This is actually in the CFP and CEP exams. It talks about a financial pyramid. Now, at the bottom of the pyramid, we have protection. Now, if we're in our 20s, 30s, or 40s, protection, Michael, it's usually our human capital that we're protecting, right? I'm sure you're doing extremely well, but you know what? You're still your most valuable asset is, because you're young, because you're smart, because you're talented, because you're educated, because you're handsome, right? Your best asset is still your human capital. So if something happens to you, what happens to your loved ones? They need protection. So life insurance, it's at the bottom. It's a thin, broad layer. You could have $1 million, $2, $3, $5 million of term protection, and you are set. Now, savings. Most financial experts, including myself, would recommend that you have 6 months of savings set aside. That's cash. Then growth. And growth should actually be one of the larger segments of this pyramid. This isn't to scale, other than how it tapers. Growth is going to be your 401k. It's going to be your dollar cost averaging. It's going to be your monthly contributions. It's going to be that idea of paying yourself first, right? Set aside. I don't care if it's $50, $100, $200, $500, $5,000. You set that aside, you forget about it, and you grow it. And that's oftentimes done through a defined contribution plan, like a 401k, 403b, 457, et cetera, et cetera. Then at the top, what do we have, agents? We have risk, and then speculation, right? Speculation at the very top. See, we live in a world where we're upside down. I call it the Robin Hood generation. The Robin Hood generation. Why is that? You all have heard of the Robin Hood app. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. That's great. You're getting people excited about investing. All right. Okay. Sometimes that does border on gambling. I had someone come up to me, someone I really know and trust, someone who works really hard, someone I think is very astute. And they said, Sean, I got $3,000. Should I buy GameStop? GameStop, a single stock that's being manipulated, that its fundamentals, its price to earnings make no sense. Its volatility is through the roof. And they're asking me, should I put $3,000 into GameStop? And Mike, the first question I asked them was this. Okay. And they're 30 years old, by the way, with 2 boys. How much life insurance do you have? None. Okay, well, how much savings do you have? How much, if you take away that $3,000, how much do you have left in case you got sick or got fired or went out of business? Well, none. Do you currently have a Roth IRA, a 401k? Are you setting money aside monthly, growing for your retirement? No. Right? See, it was an inverted pyramid. The Robin Hood generation takes any money they have, instead of properly building this financial pyramid. And this is what you should be teaching. You don't need a securities license to teach this. You can say most financial experts, you can Google it, look up financial pyramid. See, I always look for stuff that if they Google it, it validates what I'm saying. And see, we're selling what? Are we selling speculation? Are we out there doing Bitcoin trading? Are we out there selling securities? No. Hell, we're not even selling, 401ks and Roth IRAs. I mean, you can set up an annuity as a Roth IRA, but you get my point. But here's the cool thing about an IUL. An IUL, as well as any whole life product, helps cover all 3. Now, I'm not saying you would do just an IUL for all 3 of these, but you see how it offers death benefit protection. It offers savings accumulation that can access tax-free. And it is a product that over a long period of time can grow and be used to supplement your retirement. So I know that was long-winded, but understand this slide, very powerful slide, very powerful concept that is validated by financial experts, by doctors out there, economists out there, Nobel Prize winners out there who have talked about how this is how we need to set up our financial situation. So let's go through the 8 benefits. Benefit number 1, it's easy. We want to ensure your human capital. So who will take care? See, I always thought about this. I was jealous. I was always jealous. I'll just be honest. It was immature. I was jealous of those kids. I grew up with a single mom. My dad left very early in our life, and I was jealous of those kids that had the 2 parents. They both had great jobs and great income, and in the summers in college, they would get hey, come on over to my parents' place, and we have a boat, and we have this, and I was always so jealous because I felt like they had a security that I didn't. But what it did is it created a sense of protection that I had to do something. So when you sit down with a client, you know who you're dealing with. There's some people out there who are working very hard to protect their family. And you're going to find those people. Some of them don't have life insurance at all or don't have enough. And if you ask them this, you say, someone's asking me, Sean, who is going to take care of your family? I've got a wife and 4 kids, right? A wife and 4 kids, a dog, a cat, goldfish, right? Who's going to take care of my family when I'm gone? We need to protect that human capital. Like Michael, like I was saying, you're probably doing very well, but you're still the human capital. If you were taken out right now, perhaps you have a paid off house and car and savings, all this stuff, but that doesn't equate to what you would be doing for your loved ones. So life insurance is it, right? And we talked about this before, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but we want to protect that human capital with life insurance, as well as financial capital, right? With IULs, offer that complete protection. But if we look at the facts are this. And this is according to a study in 2020 by LIMRA, the Life Insurance Marketing Research Association, that the average American will earn, this was based off a meager like $65,000 salary. I didn't say meager, but nowadays, $65,000, unless you got 2 incomes, that's not going to pay for much. But with a $65,000 salary, thereabouts, the average American is going to make over $3 million in their lifetime. But what happens if they die too early? See, only 54% of American adults have life insurance. I know you've seen these statistics before. And 27% of those, half of those, the life insurance they're counting is group coverage. It's business coverage, which usually isn't enough. And it is rarely portable, meaning that when you get sick, when you retire and you actually need the life insurance, you don't have it. So it's only there in the rare case that you just died way too early. So the bottom line is Americans are uninsured. When you sit down with people and you ask them that question, who's going to take care of your family when you're gone? You know that whatever they tell you, they're probably underinsured. So benefit number 2, right? We talked about benefit number 1. Let's talk about benefit number 2. Because remember, life insurance is life insurance. Whether it's an IUL, term, whole life, whatever it is, it's always life insurance first. And that is valuable. Number 2, we're going to see a lot of people who it's everything they could do to cover their final expenses. See, a funeral alone can cost nearly $10,000. Social Security pays less than $300. I think it's like $288. So is it fair to ask your loved ones to cover the rest? Now think about this. So who are some of these clients you run into with Medicare? Maybe it's some Med Advantage clients. I mean, it can be Med Sup clients too, but ones that really need that $0 premium, ones that they have a very tight budget. You say, well, what, $10,000 of life insurance, that's not very valuable. Heck yeah, it is. In fact, I could argue that $10,000 of life insurance is more valuable to one man than it is to a $10 million policy to another woman. Right? Because it's relative to where you are. I always ask this. I say, hey, Michael, if I sit down with you and I say, what's the most money, honestly speaking, you ever had in your checking account just sitting there at one time? I don't know, $230? I mean, as soon as it comes, it goes out, that sort of thing. See, if we have the ability to drop $10,000 that's already saved and they're ready to pass on tax-free, And then what you do is pay a premium, which is you start to save it retroactively. Wouldn't that be great? Heck, that's what we do. We buy cars, then start paying for them. Well, here's your death benefit. Now you can start paying for it. And I promise you that it's always going to be worth more than what you pay for, right? And there's some bow tie calculations with, when the cost intersects it. But with a final expense policy, you're able to cover their expenses. Now, how many times are you going to sit down with people? And we have another presentation that comes up, I think, next week, where we dissect the financial inventory and show you how you can use the global LARC to identify and create multiple sales opportunities, this being one of them, just by asking questions, legal questions, questions that make sense, questions that your clients will answer. So I'm excited to share that with you next week. But let's talk about Americans Die with Debt. So Michael, hopefully I still got you on the line, haven't bored you too much. But if I was going to ask you, according to debt.org, what percentage, I tried not to make this too tricky, what percentage of Americans die with debt? This is a statistical fact.
I would have to guess the highest one.
Yeah,
73%.
73, right? That's the truth. According to debt.org, in May of 2021, I'm sure it hasn't shifted too much. If anything, it's increased because it's in the middle of people getting, pandemic money. 73% die with debt. I don't know what your sales style is. It depends. But if someone said, oh, I've got it covered, do they really? 73%. If 10 people told you, then 7.3 people, and I know that's not a real thing, a 0.3 person, but 7.3 people are lying to you. They're not going to die with debt. So that wife, right, because women outlive men, that loved one, those kids, they're going to have to figure it out because those debt creditors can show up and demand to be paid, all right, through probate court. Let's move on to number 3, long-term care costs. This is probably the biggest one in many ways. Why do I say that? Because one, it's an absolute epidemic, the amount of long-term care needed and the lack of people who have it. It's also something that strikes a lot of fear because it's completely unknown and scary. And you might find people, I say might, like you work with 65-year-olds, what happened to their parents who just died, who died a little bit ago, who maybe are dying or towards the end of life right now? They had to take care of them and they had to figure out these costs, and it was very difficult. So when the time comes, what assets we liquidate to pay for the end of life care? Now let's understand the statistics. Memorize this. It's very easy to do. According to longtermcare.gov, 70% of us who reach age 65, and ask yourself, how many people do I sit down with that are 65 or older? Well, 70% of them are going to need some form of long-term care. Long-term care is not provided by Medicare, Part A or B. It's not, it doesn't just come standard with a Med Advantage plan, right? Now, women being smarter and tougher than men, they need it on an average for 3.7 years, men 2.2 years, and then 20% of those will need it longer than 5 years. But the problem is this, how many people that you sit down with actually have a long-term care insurance policy? According to longtermcare.gov, 5%. I think the statistic is even lower. In fact, most of who own it are considered upper middle class to wealthy. Because the rest, by the time they start thinking about it, maybe if some of you can type in the comments, have sell long-term care or have sold long-term care. How many times do you run into someone, they really don't think about it till they're 65 and then they don't get approved or it's too expensive, they're on a fixed budget, right? That's why this number is so low. That's one of the reasons why this number is so low. So you can solve the long-term care need with living benefits from a life insurance policy. See, if you can't perform 2 of 6 ADLs, activities of daily living, then the life insurance company can actually send you some of your death benefit while you're still living. All right. Now there's parameters and calculations around that, but my goodness, this could be a savior when it comes to protecting your financial assets. And what if though, what if you say, because I've run into this, I've done this for a long time. What if you run into someone who says, I don't need it. I have enough assets, Sean. I don't need life insurance, right? You hear Tom Hagner talk about this all the time. I don't need life insurance. I've done really well for myself. Okay, let me ask you this. And this is an actual client I sat down with, Michael. And I love, I won't obviously give you their name, but I love telling the story. Someone in Seattle where I grew up. I said, okay, I'll call him Michael, right? Okay, Michael, let me ask you this. I understand you've done really well. He's one of those people that want to remind you every 8 to 9 seconds how well they've done, right? Wants to show you their card collection before you sit down and help them out with their insurance or their financial needs. Wants to talk about how they enjoyed the catching the marlin off their boat, all this stuff, right? But hey, good for them. This person came from nothing. They built up a lot of wealth and they didn't need life insurance. I said, well, let me ask you this. When it comes to long-term care, because you're eventually going to need it or your spouse is going to need it, what assets are you going to liquidate, Michael? How about the Amazon stock? He was very proud of purchasing Amazon early 2000s, right? 4 splits. It's gone up, I don't know, 6,000%, something like that. He said, absolutely not, Sean. As you know, as a financial advisor, my children will get a step up in basis. One of the few IRS tax laws that benefit someone when they die. No way I'm touching the Amazon stock. Well, what about the Stingray Corvette? Can't do it. See, my daughter loves that Corvette. Sure, her and I, that's our thing. She got to take it to prom. She's going to take it when she gets married. Not touching the Corvette. How about the condo you got? He had a beach condo. Nope. My wife actually might be downsizing. And so she would live in the condo rather than the house. I can't sell the condo. All right. How about the boat? Boats, it's kind of a depreciating asset, and the boys love going out on it. We have so many memories fishing. All right. We have so many memories going out in the boat. How about the house? Well, can't do the house. I said she might move to the condo, but I'm not sure. And we need the house. It's where everybody comes back for Thanksgiving, for Christmas. I can't take that away from my wife. Okay, how about this? And this is a true story. How about this? How about your emergency cash? And here's what I'm talking about, Michael. This was like 100 grand of emergency cash. You just had set aside in a savings account, earning like 0.03%, right? How about your emergency cash? And here was his answer. Sean, I wouldn't use the emergency cash. I said, well, why is that? Well, because then I wouldn't have an emergency cash. See, every single asset that you have, especially when you're wealthy, right? Assets can make you miserable, right? But when you are well off or relatively well off, we have an emotional attachment to each one of these assets. It's actually very hard to spend. It's very hard to let go. You know what we don't have an emotional attachment to? Life insurance. See, I always liked Star Wars growing up, or Star Trek. I wasn't as much of a fan, really a fan at all. But they had the shields. You know what I'm talking about? The magic shields on the spaceship, and these lasers are coming in and hitting them. And sir, Captain, we're at 20%, we're at 30%, whatever. See, life insurance is that shield. You want to know what no client has an emotional attachment to is life insurance. They want to use it. They want to consume it. Life insurance is that shield. See, if you have a life insurance policy, you can use that as a spend down to offset long-term care costs and end-of-life healthcare costs and not touch your assets. Very, very powerful thing. Number 4, we want to protect your estate and cover your taxes. You have worked a lifetime to create wealth. Do you really want to give it away to taxes? Now understand, Michael, I want to be real clear. With your agents on this call, I've had some people tell me that this is getting a little bit too complicated. Advanced. I think advanced is the word. It's not complicated, but advanced. See, I always learned that you have 2 ways to go when you're teaching, when someone is entrusting their time, this 55 minutes, with you and what you're teaching them. You can try to control what they should and shouldn't learn, or you can give them everything you know and let them decide. And what I'm telling you is I'm giving you everything I know, and it's not too complicated. Heck, I'm sure Michael will give you a copy of this. A recording will be up. Watch this. Understand it. It's very simple when I explain these next few concepts to you. Really, 4 through 7, all right? But how do we protect your estate and cover your taxes, all right? Now, this is very similar to what we just talked about, protecting your assets from the cost of long-term care. Well, I want to start with something that's very, very interesting, okay? Very interesting. And you could actually present this to clients. I would put some disclaimers on it, but it is designed where you could put your information instead of mine. You could have the disclaimer, and you could walk them through this stuff, right? But understand this. There are 19 states, I believe, New Jersey having the most restrictive that have state death taxes. We're just going to call it death tax, right? When you die, you owe the state money. And then there is a federal exemption tax or state tax, death tax, that is for every state. Most states, so everyone besides the 19 are going to default to the federal. But they have a percentage that you are taxed and an exemption. So what do I mean by exemption? It means that the first X amount is exempt, right? Kind of like when you're earning Social Security prior to your full retirement age, you have a certain exemption amount, 10 grand, 12 grand, 17 grand, but anything over that, then you're going to lose your Social Security benefits, which is why it's very unwise to take Social Security before your full retirement age and keep working, right? You're actually getting diminishing returns. See, but exemptions, if we go back to 97, not that long ago, I was in college, right? If we go back to 97, the exemption was only 600 grand. I understand people made much less money then, but then anything over 600 grand, keep in mind, this is your entire estate. This counts life insurance. This counts assets and cash and savings and all these things, right? IRAs. Then your top estate tax rate, so it could get as high as 55%. So could you imagine, God forbid you died with $1 million net worth and 400,000 of it was subject to up to 55%. Oh my goodness, right? That's crazy. And then look, it went up a little bit, but even in the early 2000s, think about the dot-com boom. Think about these multimillionaires or billionaires coming out of Silicon Valley. If they died, they were exempt their first million. And then anything else beyond that was subject to a 50% potential high tax, or the top rate of being a 50%. So imagine if they died with 10 million. Now 9 million is potentially, subject to losing half of it to the government. See, we forget, one, because we either don't know about this, or two, because if you fast forward, see, it's always been a very reasonable, relatively low amount, relatively low. There's a lot of people that die with more than a $5 million net worth. But if we fast forward to 2018, when the Secure Act came out, it raised it significantly. See, it was 11 million plus inflation. By 2022, it was over 12 million. I think it's up to 14 million now. Now it's set to expire in 2025. It will probably be extended. Don't take that to the bank, but it'll probably be extended. That's not my point. It doesn't matter. It's high. It's too high, I would argue. Because did you know that if I die and I have a $14 million exemption, if I'm married, my spouse inherits that exemption. Now it's a $28 million exemption, or 30 or 40. Do you see? It's not going to grow like that. There's too much wealth. And we are actually, for the last 3 years, our federal debt payment is higher than what we collect in taxes at the IRS. So we're running a deficit every single year. Our debt payment has now surpassed military spending. Only Social Security and Medicaid are higher expenses on the U.S. economy's P&L, right? So what's going to happen? Are they going to keep it at this ridiculously high exemption? They've even started to make changes. They've even started to make little changes. You're going to see that evolve. It's not a big political problem right now. They can just keep printing more money, but eventually it's going to catch up to us. So my point is this: there's going to be people who you're sitting down with right now who are projecting to have a $5 or $10 million net worth by the time they die. Wouldn't it make sense to protect it just in case? Because when this exemption comes back down and there's this windfall of tax money that goes to the federal government, are they caught with their pants down, as the saying goes? Well, this is the intelligence of life insurance planning. This is a very, very easy concept to understand. Let's say you're sitting down with someone who has a projected estate. Maybe they're 65 years old and it's currently at just below 6 million. And I see how I broke it down to stocks, bonds, collectibles, cash, houses, etc. What if that person who was worried at 65, they're worried that over the next 3 decades, those exemptions come down, their estate grows, and now they're subject to losing 50, 40, 38, hell, 10%. I mean, anything beyond the exemption would be kind of scary. And is that the last person you want to give it to? Absolutely. Trust me, this person paid plenty of taxes during their lifetime. Here's the intelligence of life insurance planning. Mrs. Smith, what we can do is let's take $200,000 out of the stocks, purchase this single premium permanent life insurance policy. There's some great ones through North American, et cetera, et cetera.
Hey, Sean, real quick.
And
I know you're on a
yes,
roll. I don't want to ruin your railroad. You do have that gray square on the right. Is there just a little X or something you can close that out?
I don't see it anywhere. Thank you for letting me know.
This here? You don't see that gray box?
No, there's nothing there. I can.
Oh, weird.
You,
How
you
about
still
this?
see a gray square?
Yeah, we do. How about this? Let me can you hit stop share and then
Yep,
reshare?
absolutely. So let
that'll
me
clear it out.
bring this back up. Oops.
Yeah, that slide.
All right, let me bring. How do I? Hmm?
Oh, here. I'll just share my screen and then that'll stop
Okay,
yours.
sounds good. Yep. I had moved the
Go. No, just stop share there. Okay, now you go ahead and share yours one more time.
Okay, let's try it again. And then we have that right there, which I'm going to minimize that.
Yep.
Okay. And so hide floating meeting controls.
Yes.
Can you still see it?
Weird. Yeah, that's still there. That's so bizarre. There's
That
nothing on
is
your screen
strange.
right there.
Let
That's
me
bizarre.
try this real quick.
It just sort of popped up there. It wasn't there
Yeah,
the
that is
majority of it.
very strange. So I'll share my entire screen. This is sometimes a weird workaround. Can you see it here?
Yeah.
And you don't see the gray box anymore?
No, we do see the gray box.
You still see a gray box right over here.
Yeah, no weird.
That is bizarre. That is bizarre. Well, let me do this. I'll just tell you what's there. If where you circled, all it says is $1 million irrevocable trust.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, I have no idea why that's showing up. So let me so you still see it, right? So highlight that, draw that on that there again. Can you do that? Or do you need me to share your screen?
No, I can do it. There is a gray box right here to here. Yeah. Do you see
Yeah,
that?
so it's totally blocking out what I'm okay. So what that is that is something called an ILIT, irrevocable life insurance trust. And you're not an attorney. Only attorneys, like, did you know that in all 50 states, you don't need to be an attorney to sign a will, to be a witness to a will? You don't, right? But in all 50 states, you need to be an attorney to set up a trust. So if you have questions about that, I used to use a resource called Avvo, AVVO.com, or you might know attorneys. And we're not talking about selling trust just to make money at $1,500 a pop, and the trust is never funded and no one knows why they did it, like my mom. We're talking about a true purpose. So what it says right there, Michael, is it's $1 million. It's all blue because it's all life insurance, and it's set up as an irrevocable trust, meaning you can't get it back. Now there's AB trust, and there's a way to get money out of a trust to help pay for life costs. But here's my point. We're trying to protect our estate. So we took $200,000. We bought $1 million life insurance policy. And what you can't see is just a blue box. It says $1 million and it says irrevocable trust. And now what's our estate worth? $5.75 million. But we have $1 million separate entity that is also going to go to our loved ones. So, I'm not great at math, but what's higher, 5.95 or 6.75? See, life insurance, you do a 10 pay, you do a single pay, it's still pennies on the dollar when we die, and it's tax-free. So now when you die, do they have to cadaver? Do they have to cannibalize the estate and decide what to sell and get rid of those step up in basis benefits, take the tax hits out of an IRA right away? No, they can simply cash out the trust with the tax-free benefit of the life insurance, lower their estate value, and you're ready to go. You just protected it against these exemption rates. So I know it seems advanced. If you have a client, that's what the asking specialist is for. You can explain it. You can say, listen, I showed them this slide about the exemptions, the federal tax exemptions, and they were worried about it. They wanted to look at setting maybe one of those trusts up and having the life insurance payout. You see what I'm saying? Well, Global has set up the platform. I'm just trying to give you the questions and the thoughts so that you can help people and broaden your ability to make money. All right, Michael, do you see it here still, the gray box?
Yep.
She's Louise. I have no idea why it's doing that. I mean, there's nothing here. That is crazy. All right, well, I'm just going to try to narrate around it. Leaving a legacy. So what do you want written on your tombstone? How do you want to be remembered? A final gift of generosity can leave a lasting legacy. You know, we've always heard this before, but no one cares how many zeros in your bank account when you die. They care about what you did for others. So I want to ask you this. What makes a bigger impact? If you were given a charity, let's just call it ABC charity, right? And that could be, Feed the World. It could be, the pets that are missing legs and being abused, and it could be Red Cross, it could be whatever. But you have a charity. You're giving $200 a month. What makes a bigger impact? $200 a month, or say $100,000 lump sum? Well, it's $100,000 lump sum. But let me go further. Now, I want to stress one thing. You can write $200 a month off. You can't necessarily write a life insurance policy off. Now, there are things you can write off once you transfer it, but don't get caught up in that. Don't get caught up in that. I'm giving you the bigger picture and the understanding, because there's some serious value beyond even being able to write it off that you need to understand and your clients need to understand. Okay? See, charitable giving doesn't have to be a bad investment. On this one, Michael, I took a Mutual of Omaha IUL Express. So if you're putting in $200 a month or $2,400 a year, and you died the same year, which I would not want for anyone at 61 years old, then you would have had a 3,402% internal rate of return, right? Like, it'd been the best investment ever, even though you sadly died. But I want you to look at this more from the standpoint of, why would I give $200 a month? So ask your clients, are you giving to a charity? Do you want to give to a charity? How much do you give to a charity? Let me present to you an alternative option that might have more power. Instead of giving this charity, let's put it into an IUL. Now, this IUL, we can do guaranteed IULs. We can do things that make sense to that client. Don't worry about that. You would submit that scenario over. But what makes more of an impact? The $200 a month, and I understand this is a gray box right now, but over 20 years, let's say you died at age 80, Mr. Smith, and you have two choices. You can give that $200 a month, making a small difference, and by the end of 20 years, you would have given $48,000. Does that make sense to everyone? $200 a month, $2,400 a year, 20 years, you would have given $48,000. Did you know that if you just put that $200 a month into a life insurance policy and made the charity the beneficiary, then when you died, rather than giving them $48,000, guess how much you'd give them? Almost double. You'd give them $84,000. Which is higher, 48 or 84? 84 is higher. Now, I want to also point something out, okay? You also have something called recourse. Right, I live in North Idaho. We're next to Montana. It's a very 2A friendly state. Okay, I don't want to offend anyone. It's not political. I'm just saying, this is not a place where you want to rob a bank in North Idaho. Probably 60% of the people are carrying a weapon. And my point is this: many people were supporting the NRA, the National Rifle Association, but then have you heard on the news all this corruption? The waste of funds, the chairman flying around with his family in a private jet, right? See, you might say, dang it, I had no recourse. You can't write the NRA and say, I want my $24,000 back that I gave you over the last 20 years or 10 years. You can't do that. You have no recourse. What if, Michael, you had an early death in the family, or a pension stopped paying, or an investment went bad? You don't know. What if you have higher than expected medical care expenses? What if you need that money? See, if you own it, then you can change course. You can change that beneficiary. Maybe you want to change it from the NRA to a different charity. Maybe you want to change it from one child to another child, or maybe you want to go pay for a grandkid's college and you didn't even know you would have a grandkid at the time. Does that make sense? There is no recourse when you are just sending checks off every month. And you're also not getting the pennies on the dollar multiplier. Life insurance can make charitable giving more impactful because you have recourse, because you can give more money, and because you have the ability that if you need it, you can use those assets if there is an unexpected event to occur. That's a very powerful thing, very powerful thing. Number 6, elimination of sequence of returns risk. And we're almost wrapped up. This is a little longer presentation, but please bear with me. This is important. And I'm assuming Mike will get you some sort of copy or you can watch the recording. Because if you understood these things out, and notice I'm not sitting here on TikTok and showing you how, you never lose money in a down market and it's better than a 401k and the stock market is gambling. Hogwash. This is very important to understand for what it is. I assume the gray box is still there, Michael.
Yes,
Or someone can type in chat if the gray box is still there. Please let me know.
it is.
It's there.
Okay, all right. I'll just assume it's going to stay there. So we have 2 investors. Both of them, after 20 years, Bob and Ted, even though the heavy losses were late for Bob and early for Ted, right? See this -10, -13, -23. Both of them, because they are not taking money out, get the same return, 121%. So what you can't see in that gray box is that Ted has the exact same 20-year account value of 1.103 million at 121%. They're identical. They're identical. Because your rate of return is all that matters if you're not taking money out. Now, what happens when you start taking money out? Once you start taking money out, it is not your rate of return. Your rate of return does not matter. It has an impact, but it doesn't matter. What matters is the sequence of returns, the order that they came. See, now if we look at Bob, who is now taking out $25,000 a year, he's taking out 5%. His losses are late. His first 3 years, he gained 44%. So by the time that he is, let's say, 80 years old, 20 years later, he has more money than he put into it while he took out $25,000 because he averaged over 5% in the correct order. But Ted, and you can't see this is blocked out, Ted's first 3 years are -40%. So even though he earned 121%, he had the same exact return over 20 years. Ted ran out of money by year 17. He ran out of money, right? So it's no longer the rate of return, it's the sequence of returns. And if we use an insurance policy, and track with me here, you can write this down if you want. I always have taught, if you say smart things, clients will think you're smart. And they like to receive advice and buy stuff from smart people. So what we see here, and some of it's going to be blocked out, is 2 approaches. The left approach is what most people do. It is using your IRA only, right? They saved up money, 401k, 403b, they put it into an IRA and they lived off of it. Now, in this instance, they have $600,000. Now, what I have here is I don't have any negative year higher than any positive year. I just did a very good simplification. And the average rate of return is over 7%. Okay? But then I contrast it on the right side is what I call a 2-bucket strategy. And memorize this word, non-correlated asset. Non-correlated asset. See, correlation is it moves together. Non-correlation is it does not move together, or it moves in opposite direction. See, I'm talking about using a 2-bucket non-correlated asset approach. See, doesn't that sound smart? You can memorize that. All we're doing is we are taking $100,000, right? See how the IRA was at 600, but now the IRA is down to 500? Because what we did is we took $100,000, we put it over to a single pay IUL or a 10-pay IUL. All right. So we have a 2-bucket non-correlated asset approach. Now, what are we doing? Well, we're starting to withdraw $50,000 at retirement every year. And if we have, even though we had a 7% rate of return net, and even though no negative year was higher than a positive year, it almost boggles the mind how this happens, right? Because our losses early were a little too high. When I say too high, oh my goodness, we had 15% the first year, and then -10. And then 15, then 15, then -10, then 15, then -10. You can see it right there. That is too much of a slide, that market going lateral, and we run out of money by age 81. See those negatives? That was enough, even though the average was 7% and none of the negatives were higher than the positives. That was enough for us to run out of money by 81. So in a situation like that, part of your plan better be to die by 81, or else you're going to be out of money. So we took out 1.15 million and we're out of money, right? Well, we really didn't. We took out $850,000 or $900,000, and then we put the rest in the credit card because technically we're out of money by age 81. But now look at this. What do we have on the right side with the 2-bucket non-correlated asset approach? Whenever the market was down, we didn't take money out of the IRA. Isn't that the golden rule? Buy low, sell high. It doesn't say sell low, buy high. Now, I understand at the end of it, how much money did we take out? $800,000. But how much money do we have at 81? Heck, we have, $250,000. And at 85, we still have $200,000, right? Well, where's the rest of the money come from? See, we took that money and we put it into a single pay. This is the F&G Path Setter. No blood, no urine, right? Fantastic rates from F&G, Fidelity and Guarantee. We put it in here, and by age 85, look at this. You see those $50,000 loan withdrawals? The remaining $350,000, see, because we still had to make up the $350,000, $800 is not enough. We still needed the $50,000. The 7 years that the market went down, over the 2.5 decades, we just took it out of the life insurance policy. So we only put $100K in, we took $350K out, and based on average returns, we still have, this isn't a typo, $1 million of cash and $1 million death benefit. But the cash is inside the death benefit. That's not $2 million cumulative, once you know that. But we still have $1 million. Now, what if you say, well, that's unbelievable. Okay, what if we went with the alternative, the midpoint assumptions? The market didn't do really well. Well, we would still have $150,000 of cash or $185,000 or inside a $185,000 tax-free death benefit. The reality is it's probably going to be somewhere in between. So we have more money and we sleep better at night because we have a 2-bucket non-correlated approach, right? So again, that might seem very advanced, but think about it. All we're doing is taking $100,000, putting it in an IUL, getting paid on it, getting the commission, and then explaining that when the market's down, take your money from that year out of the IUL. And what you're going to do is you're going to avoid sequence of returns risk. Benefit number 7, almost done, protection from creditors. Bankruptcy and lawsuits could affect your retirement. A whole life policy or an IUL could potentially be protected. Notice my asterisk, potentially. Here's a great resource. We can type it and put it in the comments, or we can give you a copy of this presentation. There's a great resource from a top bankruptcy law firm, okay, creditor law firm, that shows you what your protections are in the states. Most have some protection, some do not. So check your state out. And if your state has nothing, you can remove this slide. But if it's like my state where I currently have my primary residence, Idaho, you see how it says the exemption is unlimited, and the only conditions are that I have completed the exemption of cash value of the policy owned by the debtor, except value attributed to premiums paid in 6 months prior to a bankruptcy. I mean, that makes sense, right, Michael? You can't just stash it and 1 week later file bankruptcy. And it is exempt for BK and creditors. Yes, creditors can't touch the money in the life insurance policy. Bankruptcy creditors can't, courts can't touch it, right? So, and they can't attach the beneficiaries. So they can't wait for my kids to inherit and then go after them. So check out this website, because if you live in one of those states and you show clients this, and it's not you, you're pointing to this citation from an attorney from a website. Yep. So this could be something you want to consider. Again, we don't offer legal advice, but when I look at my own personal planning, I feel comfortable knowing that the money in that life insurance policy looks like it can be protected under state law. Very, very powerful. Last one, tax optimization. This is very similar to the 2-bucket approach, but I want to show you a simplification, right? I want to show you a simplification. Even if you weren't worried about sequence returns risk, look at the tax optimization. See, a small amount of tax-free income goes a long way. I'm using the state of Washington because they have no state income tax. They're one of 9 states that have no state income tax. So I'm giving you the worst case scenario. Let's say you had $200,000 of taxable income. What is taxable income? IRA. If you take money out of an IRA, it counts as tax, a traditional IRA. You're taxed on every dime that comes out. So you took out $200,000 from your IRA and you said, see, I'm just going to live off my IRA. I have plenty of money. I can take out $200,000 a year. Okay, I understand. But let me point this out to you. According to smartasset.com, which I have the link right down there, when I punch in your state and federal status, your exemptions, your filing status, right? Married filing jointly, $200,000 of taxable income from your IRA is going to result in you paying $41,353. May I propose an alternative, Mr. or Mrs. Smith? If we set up a second bucket, or IUL, where you can take money out tax-free, then now you can achieve the same income, $180,000 taxable. So don't take all of your IRA out, just take out 180, then take out $20,000 from your IUL, and now you only pay $36,663. Same assets or same money spread over 2 assets. So a 10% reallocation of tax-free income could result in an 11% reduction in taxes paid. So tell me this, would you like to have the same income, but you get to keep $4,690 in your pocket? Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? So you start to present stuff like this, you're going to gain massive momentum when it comes to life insurance. Now, finally, the bigger picture. Okay. Let's talk about this. I'm going to be really, really raw and really abrupt with this. Okay. We see people going to marches, which is great. We see people post on social media, putting flags in their sign, wanting to find equality in this country, right? How do we do that? I'm going to tell you, it comes down to 2 things. You can do whatever you want, but it comes down to 2 things: money and education. Money and education. Let's look at one of the best ways to pass on generational wealth, and that is home ownership. Where do white Americans fall? Well over 70% home ownership. But how about Asian or Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islanders? How about Native Americans? How about Hispanics? How about Black Americans? Many of these are hovering below 50% home ownership. Have you ever considered a mortgage protection policy? How many clients do you sit down with who are 65 and they say, I have no need for life insurance? I say, is your home paid off? Well, no. Okay. How about this? How about we make sure it's paid off and you can leave it to the children? Or if you die early, the life insurance policy can go to the children and they can own the home. Money and education, money and education. See, you can put whatever sign you want in your yard, you can put whatever you want on Facebook, and please understand, I'm not saying anything bad about that. But what impact does it truly have? Sometimes I think we do stuff like that to make ourselves feel better, but what impact does it have? Selling life insurance and educating clientele can make a massive impact. Now they have a purpose. Now I can make sure that this home is going to go to my children and my grandchildren. And I'm going to reverse that course and I'm going to raise that bar and lift that up. All right. How about women? This isn't a sexist comment. I told you they're smarter and tougher. Statistically, women outlive men by a dramatic percentage. Statistically, according to the Center for Retirement Research at Boston University, 1 in 6 women or widows, because their husband dies, fall below the poverty line upon the death of their husband. But how many times, and you all know what I'm talking about, when you sit down, and this is changing. Like my wife is astute, and there's many people I sit down with of my generation, of the younger generation, who they're right there. The women are right there, and this probably will just dissipate, hopefully, and not become an issue. But how many people you're sitting down with who are 65, 66, 67, 70 years old nowadays, who it's still that older generation where the man is doing the talking, the man is out there explaining what we're going to do. Well, great, you're going to die first. And just because you die, let's look at Social Security. Hey, yes, awesome. We get to keep the higher of the 2 Social Securities, but did you know you lose the lower? What if this widow is making $1,000 a month or $600 a month? That's now gone. Does that mean that their rent or mortgage is cut in half? Well, he died, so we'll just cut in half. Does that mean a gallon of gas, you show some sort of death certificate and you get half off your gas or half off your gallon of milk? Hey, there is some reduction in cost, but I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. That's why 1 in 6 women fall below the poverty line with the death of the husband. So have a voice for them and make sure you explain this. And we are relentless in saying, listen, we want to make sure that this doesn't happen to your wife and that we can provide life insurance to offset that loss. Remember what I said? Money and education, money and education. According to the U.S. Department of Education and the National Center for Education statistics, 60% of students who come from a higher socioeconomic status, right? My spoiled kids are going to be in that category. 60% obtained a college degree. Why? Because they came from a place that had money and education. Now, am I saying education and college degrees are everything? No. In fact, isn't it crazy to think that Facebook, Google, Meta, Apple, they've dropped the requirement for education, college education? But understand, there's more to that. You want to get the best paying initial salary in the world right now? It's generative AI coding. I think it's $800,000 is the starting salary for someone coming out. The reason they dropped it is because they know that colleges can't teach what is now just newly existing. They can't teach what generative AI is going to be. So they're relying on people coming in and learning it. But for the most part, college teaches us. Colleges puts us into the same plane as other successful people. It's who we meet as much as what we learn. And only 14% of people come from a lower socioeconomic status will obtain a college degree. You can put as much regulation as you want out there, equal opportunity, things like that. It still has to do with money and education. You can have a life insurance policy with the funds in a trust dedicated or directed in a will to go to pay for a child or grandchild's education. Now that's motivation. Now that's a reason. And again, life insurance allows you to do that. So I can open this up. I apologize. I only have about 1 minute left. So Michael, if there's any questions, let me take one. Otherwise, you can email them to me. I do apologize for taking a little bit longer, but I think this is an impactful presentation that I want to share with everyone.
This was great. I know we're all on a time crunch and we're past the top of the hour, but we got a couple of requests for this slide deck today. To which website was that? That was about 10 minutes ago. Somebody asked for the website.
Yeah, and Colton will can you send this, Colton, to Michael so he has it to distribute for agents? And it is set up that you can present this or customize this. Again, give the proper disclaimers, go through the citations yourself, right, Michael? I recommend you have an understanding, spend 10 minutes, and then you can sit down and present this to a client. Absolutely. So Colton, will you share that with Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get it sent over right now.
Thank you.
That's
I appreciate it, bub.
Thank you.
Of course.
Guys, I'll send this out to everybody here. I'll put it on our I'll put the recording on our site as well. I know, again, we're all on a time crunch, so I want to be respectful of everyone's schedules. Let's do this. If we can put our questions in a parking lot and address them next time, maybe we could start next Tuesday's session with questions that may arise. Because you should be digesting this a little bit, right? There was a lot to
That's a
chew on
great
today.
idea, Michael, because next week's is a pretty quick presentation. So we could also pick it up. We could start off with 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A, and then the rest only takes about 10 or 15 minutes.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. Let's do that, guys. I'll get the slides. I'll send them out to you guys. And then if we can compile some questions to start it off next week, that would be a terrific way to kick it off. In the meantime, guys, if you do have questions on annuities, or you're not sure about the LARC website that we've got now, or you're just not 100% sure how to get your feet under you, get with your upline, get with your upline's upline, get with Tony Holland. Let's figure out a plan here because we're heading into the busy season for Medicare, but there's not necessarily a busy season for the other things, right? Annuities, IULs, final expense, hospital plans. We just focus so much on Medicare here. We're offering these other things. We've got these trainings in place for a reason. We want you guys to be a useful, dangerous weapon out there, if that makes sense. Be able to provide these solutions to people. So if you have questions, let's get answers. And in the meantime, get with your upline for questions and let's start next week on the right foot. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Colton. Thank you, everybody, for participating today. Another great session in our LARC training. Check out the website for further details. Thank you, everybody. Have a blessed
Thanks,
day.
y'all. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.